presents Haunted Hall.
Welcome to another edition of Haunted Hall. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Manny. Yes, and it's Batman. Is that Batman or Rawhead Rex? Whose voice was that?
Somewhere in the middle.
Sounded very Christian Bale Batman there.
It did.
Let's hear that. Let's hear that again.
I'm Manny.
Yes,
Batman.
that sounded very Christian Bale.
Watched a Christian Bale movie yesterday. What the fuck was I watching? Something. Oh, Equilibrium.
Oh, okay.
I was watching Equilibrium. Yeah. Not that bad at all.
No gravelly, shitty voice in that one.
None of it.
Very clear. You can hear it.
I love Equilibrium.
So do I. You showed me that movie, by the way, years ago.
Did I?
Yeah, I didn't know it existed.
I think Pat has my DVD.
I actually own a copy of it too somewhere. So
yeah, I think Pat still has my DVD because he'd never heard of it either, so I let him borrow it. You know what my only issue with that movie is, and I'll make it really quick, is Taye Diggs.
He kind of sucks.
No, look, Taye Diggs is a good actor.
Isn't that his thing? He's feeling himself.
Exactly. He's a great actor, but dude, anger, you're greedy, you're envious of him. You're like he laughs, he gets up, when Christian Bale gets arrested, he's all proud, like pride. Dude, you got like 4 of the 7 deadly sins. Those are straight emotions.
Yes, Taye Diggs is emoting the enther movie.
Movie from beginning to end. He is the most emotional motherfucker in the entire film.
He is. What's funny is I think I remember, and
he's feeling. You're quite mad about it.
I vividly have a memory. I don't know where we were. This was a long time ago. We were somewhere, and the movie was on, and I remember you saying that. You're like, fucking Taye Diggs. You sure sounds like you're feeling as well. You said
anger is an emotion,
yes.
My friend.
Like it sounds like you've got some feelings towards the situation, as you speak. So yeah, that's pretty funny. And that was our Equilibrium minute right there.
1 minute. Done.
Hey, maybe we'll revisit that in the future. Not a horror movie, but fuck it. Who knows? We'll see.
It's not a Halloween movie either.
Not a Halloween movie, not a horror movie. Science fiction. Taye Diggs does get his half his head chopped off. That's pretty. Pretty gruesome. So hey, goes horrific, right there. But yes, speaking of things that are horrific, we're gonna be talking about Rawhead Rex, the 1986 film Rawhead Rex.
What's more, it saw me, this thing. Rawhead Rex.
This movie's got an interesting release situation because, and this is me going by because obviously I didn't see this in the theater. I'm pretty sure you didn't either.
So, I wish I had. Oh man.
So do I. But apparently, and this is going by the internet, it was released in the UK first, almost a year prior, on October 14th, 1986.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I could tell, that was theatrical. We didn't get it here in the U.S. until April 17th, 1987.
Yep.
And that was a limited release.
It was at 200 or 300, somewhere between 200 and 400 theaters. Wow. And it was pretty much doomed because I told you before we started recording, I don't have any notes, but that's not entirely true because I found this out the other day when I was doing some research, and the only notes I do have are that the film, when it was released, it was almost doomed because of the other films that were in the theater at the time. Just a few. Now, there was a lot. It was a big slate.
87. So
yes, there was a big slate, but just a few. The Aristocrats,
Oh,
Aristocats. Excuse me, the Aristocats.
Not the vulgar joke.
Yeah, Raising Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Police Academy 4, Miami Beach. Angel Heart.
Oh, really?
Outrageous.
Okay.
Yeah. Outrageous Fortune.
Oh, wow.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh, wow. Tough competition.
Platoon.
Wow. Platoon.
Lethal Weapon.
Wow.
Mannequin.
Yes.
Blind Date.
Which we just mentioned Mannequin in our Twilight Zone episode. Funny enough.
And Blind Date with the Bruce Willis, right? Bruce Willis is Blind Date.
Yes. You're right. Wow, I haven't seen that. I forgot about that movie, Blind Date, completely.
And a few others. Those were in theaters at the time that Rawhead Rex hit theaters here.
Wow.
So it was doomed. It was absolutely doomed.
Making $0 is basically what
pretty much
what happened there with Rawhead Rex.
Yep. They waited a year to release it, and then they waited till all this shit was out. Dude,
Good luck, Rawhead Rex. We'll see you out there. And I, from what I read, the VHS release was shortly after, so it was like a really limited theatrical release. And speaking of the VHS, I'm holding it right here. This is the Vestron video release that came out the same year. I'm pretty sure, like later on in '87.
Probably.
This Rawhead Rex. This is a cut box. It's not in pristine condition, but I don't give a shit.
Oh wow, you got a sacrilege.
Yeah, it's cut and it has like a plastic. I bought this for $2 a long time ago. I don't know where. I actually like that it's in this weird plastic thing.
The cover. The protector.
And, the protector, and that it's cut, and the sticker on the top is from some video store called Bu Art Video in Philadelphia, PA. I don't know where. I don't remember where I bought this. I've had this VHS for a long time, and I got it for $2. I'm sure if I go on eBay right now, this VHS is probably $50. So
I don't think so.
You don't think
not
so?
anymore. Not anymore. Simply because Kino Lorber released it. The DVD.
You're right.
This I had the DVD since that came out.
I had that at one point. I think I gave it.
And this was going for a good $200 or $300 for a long time.
So probably both were the DVD and the VHS, yeah.
But that's because they were hard to find. But now Kino Lorber, since they did the restoration, what do you need the old? You know what I mean? The old versions drop in price.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. You know what I've noticed with some releases, especially with a movie like this, especially old horror movies, as soon as Arrow, Scream Factory, any of these companies, Code Red, get their hands on the to put together a special edition Blu-ray or whatever 4K Blu-ray, you can see the value of whatever release of it goes down drastically. What I was looking up Savage Streets right now has a couple of releases, but they're all out of print. Even
European.
the DVD. I have a DVD. And speaking of Savage Streets, I would love for us to cover that in the future. I love that movie, but nonetheless,
I've never seen it.
It's great.
I've never seen it.
Possible.
Linda Blair, I've never seen it.
Coming soon, possibly. We'll be jumping into that one. But that DVD I bought years ago from Kim's Video goes for, I think, a couple bucks now, maybe $100, something like that. So
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, so it's crazy because that always happens. So it's like all these VHS guys, like people that collect VHS, these VHS purists, those tapes just drastically decrease in value as soon as because it's readily available. And in reality,
exactly.
As hipstery as it sounds, it's like the VHS is not superior to the crystal clear Blu-ray that you're getting.
It personally, maybe personally you may feel something.
I agree.
The nostalgia version of it, fine.
Yes.
Fine. Like I have
This is a movie that I think on VHS, perfect VHS movie.
It works. Yes, it works for VHS.
It hides some of the flaws. Yeah. It hides some of the not flaws with the plot or the movie, and we'll get into that in a second, but just kind of the flaws with the creature.
Yes, the creature. Yeah, you can see the mask is a little rubbery.
Yes.
I had there was a DVD came out, I'm going to say early 2000s. It was called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Family Portrait.
Yeah, I know that. That's a documentary. Yeah, I know.
Yes, it's all behind the scenes stuff.
It's great,
That DVD was released, and then it went out of print. And almost immediately, it shot up to $200-$300 on eBay.
Wow.
And I spent a long time looking for it. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna
watch
buy
that
it
together too at your old apartment. I remember you putting that on. Yeah,
probably. I spent a long time looking for it, and then when I finally found it for like $3. I'm like, oh, I am flipping this immediately.
Yeah.
And no bullshit. A week later, there was some restoration or some re-release of Texas Chainsaw that announced that it would be on there.
Oh, it was included. Yeah,
and
that's
gone.
what they do. Yeah.
Dropped. Now it's $5 on eBay, and I was like, "Well, now I have this DVD of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Family Portrait,
not worth
unopened,
shit. Yeah,
unopened." Which means if we watched it, we watched it as a special feature.
Yeah, it's not going to be
still unopened. 20 years later, it's still sitting there sealed.
Oh, because I remember watching it with you because they interviewed, I forget the actor's name who portrays the hitchhiker. I remember them interviewing him. And it's all shot on video, it looks like it was shot in the 90s or something.
Yeah, we probably watched it as the special feature on probably the 30th anniversary, which is the one with the pack of meat on the back of it, where it looks like raw meat.
Yeah, I think I have that one, or I have the Steelbook. I forget which version I have of Texas Chainsaw. It's been a while since I've thrown the DVD.
The raw meat one it's black on the front with the chainsaw outline.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I have that, and I have the Black Maria box, the one that's shaped like that's
a cool box set. I didn't get that.
It is really cool.
That is probably the coolest Texas Chainsaw Massacre release, I think. Yeah. And that meat one is pretty cool too.
Those are my two favorites. I love them both.
Yeah.
They look great. I think like even the movie looks great on them.
Yeah. But jumping back into Rawhead Rex, yes. So that was the release. That VHS release from Vestron Video was released shortly after the theatrical or limited theatrical release here in the U.S. The film was directed by George. Once again, in typical Louis fashion, I'm going to butcher this, but George Pavlo, I believe is how you pronounce that.
Pavlo or Pavlu.
Pavlo.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
He also directed the film Transmutation, which was also written, the screenplay, by Clive Barker, much like Rawhead Rex was written by Clive Barker, based on the story. Now, you might have to correct me on this. Is it the first Book of Blood? Is it books or Book of Blood?
Transmutations?
No, Rawhead Rex.
Rawhead Rex is volume 3.
Volume 3. Transmutations is also in one of them.
I'm not sure which one.
Not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a different. I think the name I think the story had a different name too. Off the top of my head, I can't. It had a different name, but he did. Pavlo.
Underworld.
Underworld.
Yes, that's the title.
He did Rawhead Rex, and then he did Transmutations, and that is when Clive Barker said, "I am never selling the rights to my story ever again."
Unless I'm directing them. I think that was...
Well, he did. That's the thing. He didn't sell the rights. He sold the movie.
I saw this. Just let me speak, okay? I saw it. And what's more, it saw me. This thing was watching me. It fixed me with these mean, burning red eyes.
You know, I remember someone saying that this film is what made Clive Barker get so protective of his properties. And that this drove him to make Hellraiser and be completely in control. All creative control had to go to him because he was so unhappy with the end result and the final product of Rawhead Rex. So, you know, and Clive Barker, you know, I've always considered you've always been a big Clive Barker. Every time I see Clive Barker, I think of you because you're a huge, you are the Clive Barker guy. Since I've known you, you've always been, every time I see anything Clive Barker, I think of you because that's always been like one of your favorite writers,
100%.
filmmakers and everything. So it's funny because when you think of Clive Barker, you think of Hellraiser. Most people don't think of Rawhead Rex. He's kind of the the forgotten stepchild of Clive Barker. And I think this movie's the reason why, because he doesn't talk about it. Unless you've read the book and the short story, no one talks about Rawhead Rex. No one.
I think I'm sure we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So I'll just reserve what I have to say about it till then. But
yes,
we'll get to it later.
So the film stars. I got a couple names here. that I'll rattle off.
David Duke.
David Duke is the lead. Howard.
Not the David Dukes.
Yes. The David Duke. He's Howard Hallenbeck.
Yep.
And his wife is portrayed by Kelly Piper, Elaine Hallenbeck. And then you've got this actor, I believe it's Niall Tobin is how you pronounce his name.
Sounds
Reverend
correct.
Coot. Reverend Coot.
The Reverend
And
Coot.
then the last name I have on his list, because I feel like you got to give this guy some credit. And the reason why I'm giving him credit is because I watched all these special features and they interview him. And I'm going to butcher this 100%. This is a very German name. You've got Heinrich von Schellendorf as Rawhead Rex.
Sounds pretty close.
That's close. I am not German, so I will not be able to. That will
Fun
not
fact.
roll off the tongue there.
Fun fact on that: they originally were going to hire the actor who played Alien,
And Peter Mayhew as well. I think the guy who played Chewbacca. They wanted him, but he was too expensive.
That's what it is. Yes, it was Chewbacca, not Alien.
Yes,
Correct.
Peter Mayhew.
But they couldn't afford him.
Yeah,
They couldn't afford him.
and he was too expensive.
It was fucking Star Wars for God's sake.
They don't got that Star Wars George Lucas money.
They couldn't afford him. There's a reason they couldn't afford him, and we'll get into that.
But yeah, those are the, I guess, the important actors, I'd say, in the film. There's some children, like child actors in it as well, and it's whatever.
The actress who plays the daughter went on to make other movies, I believe.
She's a big like a musician, violinist or something now.
Yeah, singer,
so that's
violin.
cool.
Yeah,
and
so she became fairly.
She's around 40, 41 now, which is crazy because you watch this movie and she's a little, like almost a baby, like 4 years old or something, 5 years old. Every other actor in this movie is basically showing up in a scene and killed. But yes, with that out of the way, Manny, break down Rawhead Rex.
All right. Rawhead Rex is about Howard Hallenbeck. He is a photographer, and I'm assuming a novelist. I don't know if it's his first novel or not.
I assume the same thing.
Yeah. He is a photographer who photographs historic sites, and now he's writing a book. I don't know if it's a book or like a photo journal or something, but basically he's doing a book on historic sites, and as he says in the book, the persistence of religious sites in Ireland.
Yes.
About why there are so many historical religious sites in Ireland, considering it's a religion that started in the Middle East, Christianity.
Yeah.
You know? So why are there so many religious places here? So so he's doing a photo journal type book. I'm assuming it's a photo journal because he's a photographer.
Honestly, it's not very clear.
No, it's not.
They play it up early in the movie and then kind of forget about it halfway through.
Yes.
It's just kind of.
I mean, there's a reason.
There's a reason why, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's heavily like, oh man, like, you know, back and forth with his wife about it because they kind of want to hang out and sightsee. And he's like, I got to
see Ireland.
Yeah, I got to take pictures and write shit. He's, you know, he's an interesting guy, I guess.
Well, at the same time, if you really look at it, like they're in this little town in Ireland. They've been there for almost a month.
Yeah.
And there is shit to do in this town. Like this is a depression town. There is nothing.
Just churches. That's
it. It's churches, bars, and the hotel they're in. Yes. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in this town. So the fact that they've been basically trapped in a shitty hotel for a month, this woman wants out.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time that he's visiting all this other, there's a farmer who is removing a giant obelisk from the middle of a field, which seems so weird when you think about it, but we'll get into that later.
It's kind of random, but I know what you're referencing.
Yes, yeah. There's a giant obelisk in the field, and he's having it's stuck in the dirt. So when he finally pulls it out of the dirt, Rawhead Rex comes out of it. This fucking creature comes.
I want to add the most metal-looking reveal, probably like literally.
in slow motion and all. Like,
literally, he's covered in dirt, rips through the ground. There's lightning, and the sky is dark, and he's
pops
roaring.
like he jumped off a trampoline.
It looks like a Manowar cover.
It does.
The band
it does.
Manowar. It looks like a cover. Sans any muscular men wearing leather. And
just waiting for Dio to show up.
Exactly. It is the most metal introduction to a creature
really
I've ever seen.
They buried him alive.
What?
The devil. They put him in the earth, deep down. They thought he'd die, you see. Thought they could forget about him. But the Dark Ones come back. They always do.
This window.
Useless to fight.
What does it represent?
Nothing! The devil's won.
You know, I mean, honestly, the cover is pretty much that.
Yeah, the lightning.
This is what he looks like at the moment that he jumps out of the dirt. And then he's shaking his hands over people's heads, and like he looks like the Ultimate Warrior.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the
Ultimate Warrior, Ultimate Warrior in a rubber mask.
Listen, Raw. You know what? You're right. Now that you put it that way, Rawhead Rex does look like a wrestler in this movie.
I'm going to be honest.
We should describe him a little bit if you've never seen this movie.
Well, I mean, I'll show you the picture here. He's got this long dinosaur-like. He's got it's Jason Voorhees in Part 7 when they pull the mask off, where he's got this elongated face and this jaw
like
that comes out.
Double xenomorph style mouth.
Yep.
There's like a mouth and then another mouth protruding that comes out
Almost,
of it sometimes.
it seems that way. Like his teeth just kind of, his teeth just kind of push forward. He's got these glowing red eyes. They did put lights in it. The fucking mohawk, the mohawk.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the most metal looking creature ever.
And you see his silhouette there. You see his silhouette, like he's got the Legion of Doom shoulder pads over here. He's got the leggings and some Tatanka type a loincloth hanging off of it, and then he's got the boots.
Yes, a lot of leather.
He's wrapped in leather.
Yeah. It's so interesting. He looks like an ogre, like a metal ogre.
Yeah,
that's the best way of describing. Like
he's a J.R.R. Tolkien troll.
Yes,
but super tall.
Clad in leather. Like that's basically all that's missing is he came out with the horns, and like literally we could easily take that shot and like edit in like Megadeth or something and it would work.
6 million ways to die. What is it? 1 million? How many ways to die?
I don't even know.
99 ways to die.
I've never been the hugest in my case it'd be like Slayer probably, because I'm more of a Slayer fan, so that probably would have been like South of Heaven would have been playing when he would have fucking popped up through the fucking ground. But I will say this, and we can continue with the rest of the film, but he's the star, man. He's the star of this movie. Rawhead is the star. Rawhead Rex, he is the driving force behind this movie. Without him, this movie would be a slog at times.
Okay, so he jumps out and he kills the farmer, and now Rawhead Rex begins his rampage across the Irish countryside. So Howard Hallenbeck now, he sees him at some point. And as the police are investigating, he goes and talks to the police. He tells the police, "I think I saw something." They kind of make fun of him. Before you know it, Howard Hallenbeck's son is now killed by Rawhead Rex, and he's now on a mission to find Rawhead. There is a church specifically, that the one final church that Hallenbeck has to see. Turns out this church is somehow connected to Rawhead. There is a stained glass window that has what we as the audience realize is Rawhead Rex in it, in a small little section. And eventually Hallenbeck just figures it out as well. And that's where he discovers the method to destroying Rawhead. Okay. There's two different priests in the church. One of them becomes a follower and the other one becomes an antagonist to Rawhead.
Yeah.
For the most part,
is Reverend Coot the one that basically becomes becomes Raw? No, I forget the other guy.
Reverend Coot is the main, he's the head of the church. The verger is the one who becomes the verger.
He basically becomes Rawhead's like Renfield. That's basically
essentially.
That's basically what he is. He's Rawhead's Renfield. He follows him and does whatever he says.
Yeah. And a good portion of the movie is Rawhead's tear through this poor Irish farming town. That's most of the movie, is a good portion. And Hallenbeck uncovering that it's all the same person.
Yeah. Basically him trying to... It's weird because halfway through the movie, it's like the beginning of the movie setting everything up, Rawhead's kind of attack, and then midway through, it's like his son, like you said, dying is sort of the turning point in the story, where it's like,
well, because they were leaving the town.
Fuck my photos. Let me kill this thing.
He got what he needed from what he needed from the church. And his wife had just had enough of being in this shitty, rainy town. So they were literally leaving and they were going to Dublin. And they pulled off the side of the road because the little girl, Misty, had to pee. And they let her out into a field to pee. And while the little boy is still in the car reading his comic book, Rawhead tears the door open and pulls him out of the car and eats him in the woods. Yeah.
And missed opportunity not to show it. So that's pretty morbid.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But Hallenbeck sees Rawhead going into the car and he's stuck behind a fence, so he can't get to him to save his son. Chases him into the woods and Rawhead's gone. He just hears the roar and it's over. It's
he's interesting. It's kind of like he becomes like the Loomis in this movie.
He does.
He's the Van Helsing to Rawhead Rex in this movie.
And he realizes that what he just saw eat his son is the same thing he saw in the field 2 days ago. So he goes back to the cops and says, "Listen, assholes, I was right." And then there's a little boy from the trailer park who also saw this thing. And he's like, "That's it. It's like, what? I thought you thought I was crazy, huh?" So he becomes, he becomes a little belligerent toward them with good reason. Very good reason. But so that's the point. That's the whole movie. It's basically Rawhead's tearing through this Irish town. Hallenbeck is trying to figure out what his purpose is, and the Verger becomes almost like a disciple of Rawhead, because Rawhead is an ancient. I wouldn't say he's a god, but he is seemingly immortal.
He's like a berserker. He's like a demon or something. That's
it's something along those lines. It's not really, they don't really explain what it is, what exactly he is, but he is something ancient. And at one point, Hallenbeck even says, when the officer says, we're combing the woods, we're looking through everything. And he says to the cop, he says, "I think he has hiding places you haven't even thought of. And do you know why? Because I think that he has been here before. I think he belongs here. I think this is his territory and you are on it now. He knows this area better than us." And that's essentially the biggest explanation of what Rawhead is. He is some ancient thing that just lives here.
Holy Jesus Christ! No!
I've never read the original story, and I know you have. I know about it. I know the differences between them to an extent. Specifically, I know there were a lot of changes to Rawhead himself.
Yes. Yeah.
Just the design of the character, or at least what Clive Barker describes the character as, because I believe Clive Barker actually drew pictures of what he envisioned Rawhead would look like in a live action, in a movie. You know what I mean? Now, I'm going to let you take it away here, since you've actually read the short story and kind of elaborate on the differences between the film and the actual story itself. And then we'll go right back, because there's a bunch of stuff I love about this movie, but all of it is Rawhead Rex.
Yes.
Okay.
So in the book, Rawhead is described, first off, he's 9 feet tall.
Yeah. Which
Hallenbeck says 9 feet. But in practice, when you see the scenes, he's clearly not 9 feet tall.
No, they're definitely cheating it there a bit. So.
Yes, they are. He's clearly not that big. But in the book, he is much taller. He's skinnier, and he has a bigger head. His head is actually more moon shaped. That's how he describes it. Like, I can't think of his name, but the guy in Nightbreed.
The Moonface guy. I think his name is Moonface. Yes. I think it's Moonface in Nightbreed. Okay,
yeah.
I think.
The book describes him as being more moon-faced, like kind of a crescent shape to his head. So he's more about the elongated nature of the head. And people have described it in time over that he looks like raw meat. And they usually make his face, but it's actually the color of his face that is raw meat. That is what the book says, that his face is the color of raw meat. Yes, not the shape of raw meat, but the color.
Yeah.
He has a larger mouth, which allows him to kind of open and disjoint like a snake almost.
Yeah.
So his head is smooth and crescent shaped, but he's the color of raw meat, which is where Rawhead comes from. He's got a
where the movie doesn't play that up at all with their version of Rawhead Rex.
Not at all. No, the title does not fit him at all.
Yeah, he's just Rawhead Rex because that's his name. That's it.
So he's got that big mouth, more like a snake that can unhinge and yet big to swallow, to bite things. Another thing from the book that's different is that his main thing is children. He eats children.
Yeah, which he eats a kid in this.
He does.
But there's a pregnant woman who he doesn't kill.
That's in the book, though.
He kills her, though, right?
No. In the book, okay. So the reason for even in the book, his weakness is pregnant women and women on their period.
Okay.
So fertile women are specifically what is he's afraid of. So, so the fact, so in the book, that woman is there, but she's on her period and he smells it.
She's not pregnant.
No, but visually, it's easier to understand it.
Yeah.
By her being pregnant, because he actually is afraid of pregnant women as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's pregnant women and women on their period. Those are his weaknesses. So it was visually easier to just make her pregnant. Okay, clearly we see what he's afraid of. Yeah. So I'm totally fine with that change. I'm going to say the book to the movie, 90% of the book is there. All the scenes, all the situations, everything he does in the movie is there in the book. The book just has a little bit more.
Does he eat a horse?
He does. He eats a pony.
Yes, pony. Yes. I don't know why I always remember that from the book, because I was like, I'm surprised. I guess because it was Rawhead Rex was a low budget film. They couldn't probably achieve that effect. But I always remember that, like, because I've never read the story, but I've like read about it. Just to know, like, because I love the movie and I was just curious what was different. It always stood out to me that he eats a pony, and I'm like, damn, Rawhead.
That scene in the movie is almost beat for beat in the book. Yeah. But it's a man and his wife and their daughter has a pony. And they see the open. You left the gate open, and he says, "What?" And he looks out the window and he sees movement in the garage or the shed. Yeah. You left the gate open. You know, he sees movement, so he gets his gun and he goes out there because that's where his daughter's pony is. Yeah. So he's going out there
munching on it
because it's no, by the time he gets there, the pony's already dead.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
He already did it. Like it was food. Yeah. It was food. Rawhead puts his arms around him, grabs him, and just like chomps down on him because he's got that snake. Yeah. Kind of, where he can unhinge his jaw and get real wide.
I feel like the movie when we were describing Rawhead, they tried to achieve that that's why I said like kind of xenomorph style kind of mouth jaws extending teeth that kind of grab stuff and bring it in, I guess, like where his mouth can widen.
Yes. Yeah, you do see his teeth kind of like open, like they go
not as
out,
wide as
and then Yeah, you do see it.
In my mind, Rawhead in the book can swallow a puppy. A pony. In my mind, I'm like, he just gobbled the entire. I'm sure that's not what happens, but in my mind,
because in the book too, he's like rail thin. He's very skinny. This tall like stick with a giant head.
And apparently, what I also picked on, besides Rawhead eating a horse, and this just goes back to some of the people involved, what they said when describing Rawhead and this will go back to the movie and some of the problems it had, but Rawhead in the initial kind of drawings when they were creating and designing this creature was more phallic. He looked like a dick. That's kind of what they said Clive Barker envisioned, more of like a giant male appendage, a big dick with teeth that eats everything and is crazy and just, insane and just wreaking havoc. Yeah. Like, nothing can calm him down.
I see that, and I can't fully argue because Clive Barker's drawings do look like that. It's very skinny, and I don't think he looks like a giant dick. I think that his head
big giant dick with teeth.
I don't think he looks that way though. I think that in Clive Barker's drawings, his head looks like the head of a penis.
Yeah, he's like more phallic.
Yes.
Yeah,
but as I said, that's not how he described him in the book. That's what I'm saying. I think those are Barker's drawings later. Yeah. And people are applying it to the book because I'm sorry, for a fact there are tons and tons of fans that will argue, well, that's not what it's like in the book, and they never read the fucking book.
No,
so
of
what
course.
The fuck do they know?
They're not going to know, yeah. And in reality, they couldn't make this. It wouldn't have been intimidating to be a giant, skinny, dick-looking thing with teeth.
It's
maybe
possible, but the reasoning why they didn't do that is because it was 1986 when they were shooting it.
Yeah.
This is the height of the video nasty era. They were afraid if they got too explicit with it. Of course. I mean, there are scenes in the book where Rawhead literally jerks off. He's literally jerking off and coming. He comes on the fucking priest, on the Virgil.
All we get is a piss on the.
Yeah, he fucking jerks off on the Verger. He jerks off onto him.
Really?
Seriously. Yes.
Wow. So they're equivalent.
He's running around with his big dick hanging out.
It's so funny because in the movie,
he pees on him. No, he does pee on him in the book too.
He pisses on him. Yeah. Oh, no, so he does both.
Yes. There's a few times where fucking Rawhead is out in the field just jerking off for no reason.
Oh God,
he's just fucking jerking off because he's so pleased with himself and who he killed and what he just did. Oh fuck yeah!
Oh God, damn Rawhead, I didn't know you were that loose.
But the fact is that they were really worried that a lot of the sexual overtones of it, things like that, and a lot of the more implicit, like explicit violence would be cut because it was the height of the video nasty era. They're like, if we make this, no, it's because they didn't even shoot it. Yeah, because they said if we shoot this, we're not gonna be able to release it. It's gonna get banned before we even release it, and that's it. The movie's done.
There's no escape. Keep your voice down. He's in the rectory. You think I don't know? I see what he sees. He wants you, wants to baptize you. You're out of your mind. No, I simply saw the light.
The movie was originally greenlit with a $2.5 million budget.
Yeah, it was really low budget. Oh, initially it was even lower than that, right?
It was initially released with it, and Pavlo was hired $2.5 million budget, and somewhere through the course of shooting, they cut it to $1.5 million, and they didn't tell him.
Wow.
So they were cutting things without even telling him. So when he would get to portions of the production, he would like, well, wait, where is this? Oh, we didn't do that. Why? We can't afford it.
We can't afford it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I read and saw on the Blu-ray that they built Rawhead, the animatronic head, because it's two. There's a suit version where the actor is inside the suit and it's kind of a stationary head that doesn't really move much.
It's just a rubber mask, basically.
And he's running around in that. And then they created an animatronic version that's more of like a puppet for tight shots of his face. And apparently they built all that in 4 weeks, which is crazy to think.
And to the best of to my understanding, a lot of that was cut from shooting, not from the final edit.
Yeah,
they cut a lot of the shoot because they didn't want to pay the animatronic operators extra days, because an animatronic like that, especially back then
in 86, 85, whenever they
you had 4 or 5 guys standing there with remote controls. One would do the eyebrows, one would do the jaw, one would do the ears, one would do
6 people to control one head.
Exactly. And they cut a lot of their time too because they just didn't want to pay for them, because they couldn't pay for them. Not even cutting $1 million off of a budget is huge.
Yeah, dude, of
they
course.
literally cut the movie to
with inflation. Imagine in 88, they were probably shooting this in 85, pre-production and all that. That's
imagine taking a $20 million movie and saying you only have $12 million now.
Yeah, it's $2 million back in the day was a lot of money, but even cutting that in half was, you know.
I mean, it was low budget for then too. Like $2.5 million film. You're talking about something like like your average Dan Aykroyd movie was $30 million at the time. Yeah, 20 to 30 million, and he would get $1 million right off the bat.
Just him, just his salary alone.
Just him. Yeah, your average comedy. Like we were watching the other day. We were watching City Slickers.
Yeah,
you look at the Jack Palance and Billy Crystal and what's his name from Home Alone?
John Lovitz. And Daniel Stern.
John Lovitz. He's in part 2.
No, Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern.
You know, but just look at the cast alone. And there was quite a lot of other, but those comedies at the time were 20, 30, 40, sometimes $50 million because the actors alone commanded it.
Yeah.
You're talking about a horror movie shot in Ireland somewhere that it was cut from 2.5 to 1.5 million. Like I said, that's the equivalent today of going from a $20 million budget to a $12 or $13 million budget. It's a third of the film. Yeah. Like, that's painful.
Especially if you go into it thinking that's what you're getting, and then you're just completely
and they don't even tell
the rug pulled from underneath you. Well,
literally.
Yeah. And when you kind of read about Rawhead Rex and the production, it was excruciating. It was grueling. It was cold.
Raining for a month straight.
They had
Ireland.
Yeah, literally. We can't even we haven't gotten into the ending yet, but you can't even imagine what these people were experiencing making this movie, to the point that at the end of the movie, half of the crew quit. That's how bad the experience was making this movie, that George Pavlov, whatever, had to beg them to come back, to get some of the crew back to finish the movie, because it was just such a terrible experience, making this thing. So
I
crazy.
I think it's a fair assessment to assume that's due to a lack of money, to money being pulled out from
low budget movie, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. I don't even think it's because it's low budget, because you make a movie. Yeah. It's the fact that $1 million was missing from the budget and the director didn't know it.
Yeah, sucks.
That's what I think that
sure
is.
Clive Barker wasn't happy either, and this was him. He's younger Clive Barker, but
Barker. Okay, so my issue, I love Clive Barker's stories.
Yeah,
absolutely love his stories. I love his books. I love his stories. I love his scripts and everything. But I genuinely do not understand his hate for this movie.
Yeah.
I don't. I really don't. Now, it's cheesy and it's bad and everything, but I also feel like Clive Barker at the time.
This was a young Clive Barker, dude. He was a lot younger, yeah.
Yes. I feel like Clive Barker did not understand how to make a movie. And as much as I love Hellraiser, I think Hellraiser is proof that he didn't know how to make a movie.
Of course. That was his first film.
It was.
First film as a director.
Yes. And I think I fucking love Hellraiser. I absolutely love it.
So do I.
I have here. I got a 8-inch pinhead tattoo on my leg, full body pinhead tattoo on my leg. We've shown off that I have all of the boxes and all this. I have all this stuff before. I absolutely love Hellraiser, but the editing in that movie is absolute trash.
Yeah, it's pretty rough when you really think. When you really sit and...
is garbage.
2 was an improvement in that department.
Big improvement.
Yeah.
Vast improvement because he learned how to make a movie.
Yeah.
There's
and I think he was more of a
things-
producer role in the second one, if I remember. And you wrote it as well, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. I really feel like you watch Hellraiser 1 and people love it. But I've said this for years.
Yeah.
People need to take their nostalgia glasses off
of
and
course.
look at it and say,
course.
if you watched Hellraiser today for the first time ever, what would you think of this film?
Of course. It's a
For
completely,
1986, 1987, this was an achievement. And I think it's great for what he did. But like the Jesus wept line, I fucking hate it. I've always hated that line. I think it's terrible. It doesn't
so iconic. Everyone remembers it.
And I think
you don't
it's
like
stupid.
it. Yeah.
As a director, I would have cut that shit out and gone with something else. I would have said, what is the point of it? We don't ever mention Jesus once in the entire film.
Yeah.
We do not talk about Christianity in this film. But the actor ad-libbed it and he kept it in. He's like, yeah, sure, that's cool. It's like, here's Johnny in The Shining. It was ad-libbed and it made sense at the time. But I guarantee you there is an entire generation of horror fans that have watched The Shining over the last 20, 25 years have no idea who the fuck Johnny is.
No, of course. That's
It doesn't mean shit. Why would he say, here's Johnny? Who the hell is Johnny? His name is Jack. Because they don't know who the fuck Johnny Carson is. Johnny Carson has been on the air at 40 years at this point.
What's funny about Clive Barker, and I've always said this, and don't get me wrong, I do enjoy Clive Barker, is and this is going back to Rawhead Rex. Don't worry,
look,
guys.
I think it's totally it's totally fair to have dissenting opinions on things. There's a critique.
Yeah, I think Clive Barker, and the reason why, and he is, very well known. He's up there, but he's not up there with the likes of John Carpenter, George Romero. He's not up there. There's even Stephen King.
There's
a reason. I think he is good at creating stories and characters. When you think about Rawhead Rex, which we're talking about right now, Candyman, Hellraiser, Pinhead, Lord of Illusions, Nightbreed. But when you look at his movies, besides Hellraiser, like Nightbreed wasn't, and Candyman, but he didn't direct.
Candyman's very different from the book.
Yeah, he didn't direct Candyman, though. Nope. He didn't direct that movie. But like as a director, I'm talking strictly as a director. Okay. He never ascended to that level as those other directors that we know and love that are known as like masters of horror. Like you don't really, you don't ever, if you notice, everyone mentions John Carpenter. They mention Wes Craven. They mention George Romero. They even throw Stephen King up there, and he hasn't directed that many movies, but it's Stephen King. But, you think of all these directors, David Cronenberg, all these guys. You see everyone mention them. You never see anyone lump in Clive Barker with those people because the movies he directed, besides the first Hellraiser, were never these big things. They didn't become these juggernaut. Yeah, Pinhead's popular, but he's a product of the 80s when Freddy and all these wisecracking and kind of personality, these characters with personalities were a thing.
Yeah. I think he's an amazing writer. I think he's one of the greatest storytellers of the last, maybe I'm going to say of the 20th century, especially when it comes to horror. He is one of the greatest. But unfortunately, he's a shitty director. Excuse me. I'm just being shitty by saying that, but no, he's not a director.
He's not a director. That's what I was
not a director.
He to me just like Stephen King, not a great director. Stephen King, Stephen King's not a director. He's a writer.
No, he's not. Maximum Overdrive. No, I love Maximum Overdrive.
I love it too.
But no.
But again, when I listed off those names of directors everyone knows and loves, and us as horror fans, those are the people we go by. Clive Barker's never, they never lump him in with those because...
You can't put Maximum Overdrive and Hellraiser next to The Fly. No.
Yeah. No, or even Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street. Even one of those movies, you know what I mean?
Pinhead as a character, yes. Hellraiser as a movie, no.
Dude, I love Candyman's one of my favorite movies of all time. You know what I mean? I know you love it too. But,
fucking.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
There we go.
I love that movie, and once again, yeah, you have your Candyman tattoo.
I have a Candyman tattoo that Tony Todd has in his personal photo album,
which is pretty funny, yeah.
Which is amazing. He literally took a picture with it because he loved it so much.
That's funny. But yeah, when you look at Candyman, and I know is the Forbidden, the original story, completely different. Like there's Helen and stuff like that. There are aspects just like Rawhead Rex, but they did change stuff about it that's more iconic.
The original Candyman story is very, very short.
Yeah. And like, it's not African American. He's not like, they don't really.
Oh no, it doesn't even get into any of that.
It doesn't even get into that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't get into,
so the things we love,
Candyman, that's it.
The things we love about Candyman as a character is completely different than what Clive Barker wrote. And I think, to kind of take it back to Rawhead Rex, this is an example. Not that Rawhead Rex as a movie is this Academy Award winning thing, or even as good as Candyman or Hellraiser, because in my opinion, Candyman and Hellraiser are better made movies. I think Candyman's personally a better made movie than even Hellraiser.
Yeah.
But I think, that Rawhead Rex is probably on the lower end, obviously, when it comes to his stuff. But it's a movie and it's a product of the time. And I think Clive Barker and I guess that's why maybe he disowned this movie. And he didn't disown Hellraiser because he directed it. And I don't believe he disowned Candyman, right? He didn't disown Candyman, right? So it's weird that this movie he felt the need to kind of disown to my knowledge.
And that's why I said I don't understand his.
I guess he was just young and he didn't.
He was. Yeah. He was young and idealistic, and he didn't understand why they couldn't make a movie word for word what he did.
Big dick with teeth, running around eating ponies, and
the director even said, like, look, we can't make that.
I think your God is afraid, Declan. No. Yes. Afraid to set foot in Christ's house. No!
So in the movie, Hallenbeck discovers that there is, he's walking through, he's looking at the stained glass windows, and the main priest just tells him that over time, the church has been destroyed over time, and the glass has been broken, and they put it back together as best as possible. So he realizes that the photo that the glass of Rawhead is in one window, and the thing that destroys him is in another. And he realizes how well they fit together. And the thing that destroys him is this stone, maybe a foot tall. Mm-hmm. It's a stone, and it is shaped like a pregnant woman. In the book, it's shaped more like a fat woman.
Interesting.
Large breasts. The way he explains it is large breasts full of babies. And that's how he explains it.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, Clive Barker.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It is the epitome of female fertility.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
So in the book and in the movie, when the priest dies, after Rawhead slashes him and rips his throat out or whatever, he tells Howard in the movie, the altar, what he's afraid of is in the altar. Mm-hmm. So he goes to the altar, and that's the same in the book. Same thing in the book. He goes to the altar. Now, in the book, the only difference is that there is no stained glass window.
Oh, okay.
When he pulls the sheet off the window, the altar itself has Rawhead etched on it.
Gotcha.
Okay? But the stone is still inside. In the movie, he opens and the stone is in there.
See, in the movie, they make it, again, this goes back to just keeping things a little more ambiguous. It's, there's something there because the priest touches it, the other priest touches it.
Same thing in the book.
And their hands get burned or whatever, but we never see it because it's covered by like a tapestry or something. It's like a sheet over it or something. So they leave that ambiguous the entire film until he puts two and two together with the missing glass and all that. So in the book and in the movie, it kind of plays out the same way. You're telling me.
It does. Yeah. It totally does. Yeah. I think in the movie they decided to do the stained glass window for two reasons. Number one, it's a visual medium. We want to see it. And number two,
the stained glass image of Rawhead Rex is awesome. Just the way it looks with the red eyes, the light beaming through it, and it makes the eyes red. It's a cool visual. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that number one, it's great visually. And number two, you wonder why this priest has never questioned why there's this fucking monster carved into the altar that he's doing sermons on. You would wonder why. Wait, you've never noticed this fucking thing before? What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Yeah, exactly.
It's convenient. It's a movie though, so you got to kind of.
Yes, the book tells a little bit more of a little bit more of the backstory. I'm going to say maybe a page more of the backstory.
Not that much more elaborate than the movie.
He makes it very clear that they know this creature existed, the townspeople.
Yeah.
Okay. So like the guy in the beginning, the farmer, why is this giant obelisk in the middle of his fucking farm? And he's never just tried to take it out before, because he just bought the farm and he's tilling it for the first time in decades.
These are small details that kind of
exactly
move things forward and kind of, so a little more understanding of why he exists.
Yeah. In the book, they explain how this side of town has been abandoned because they know the creature is under there. So people haven't tilled the land. They haven't planted there, nothing, because his evil is buried there and they want to leave it there. And that's become folklore of the town. Okay, so that's why you start in the beginning. Where's this giant goddamn thing? You never thought to remove it before? You've been a farmer for how long?
It's just been sitting there.
He literally just got the land. So and it's again, that's why I say in the book, it's not an obelisk. He is overturning and he finds a stone in the dirt, and he decides to pull it out and it's stuck. So he goes through the same thing and he digs and he digs and he digs and he keeps going down there and the thing just keeps getting deeper. So versus the movie where this thing is 10 feet in the air, in the book, he's actually in a 10-foot ditch. He just keeps digging deeper and this fucking thing doesn't move. Finally gets to a point where he pushes on it and it shifts a little bit. He's like, okay, I'm almost there. And that's when he decides to pull it out, because Rawhead is real deep down there. So anyway, so when we get to the ending, so he pulls in the movie, Hallenbeck lifts the thing, he pulls this pregnant female stone out, and he says, okay, here it is. And he goes after Rawhead and he holds it up over his head, and Rawhead initially is a little like,
he's scared of it. He's taken back
immediately.
And
then he realizes, hang on a second here. And then he starts coming after him, and then him and Hallenbeck get in a fight, and the stone hits the ground, and then the woman.
It's pretty hysterical, the fight that they have.
It really is.
He's smacking up Howard, throwing him around, shaking him. It's so fucking ridiculous.
And Howard's wife shows up, and she's Howard. And, and she picks up the thing. She sees it, and again, it's something that's not really portrayed. It's not really shown very well in the movie, but it's essentially, now, this is completely different from the book at this point. Totally different from the book. So this is just the movie. From this point forward, it's only the movie. She picks it up, and in my interpretation, this, not as it all is, this, as I said, this thing is the symbol of female fertility. I feel when she saw it, she felt it. That connection became evident to her, which is why she picks it up and she uses it and she lifts it, and this kind of spirit of, femininity comes out, and Rawhead immediately and it destroys him in these weird beams,
lasers,
go around the
and all that.
Kind of, it almost looks like, I gotta be honest, what's really cool is they kind of make it look like they're in Stonehenge with the because they're in a cemetery, but the way they do it with everything rolling around, it looks like they're in Stonehenge with these weird spirits kind of floating around. And they all boom, boom, one boom on Rawhead's chest, and then the ground opens up and he falls in. And
all this concrete slams on top of him.
Yep, and everything falls and he dies. Now in the book, the guy, I think his name is Andy. He's holding the thing, and Rawhead is visually afraid of it, and he's coming at him, and he's afraid, and he's backing up. And then the townspeople. Now, remember, earlier in the film, he attacked an entire trailer park. And all these people are ready to go after him, and they're doing this search and everything. These people now show up, and Andy sees them coming into the cemetery. They see him coming into the area, and he just keeps backing Rawhead up, and Rawhead's backing away from him till they hit him in the back.
So it's kind of like a mob. is more involved with defeating Rawhead.
They literally beat him down. They bats and fire and everything, and they beat him down. Like this whole group of people beat him down and beat him. And then he takes the stone, and Andy eventually hits Rawhead in the head, and it cracks his skull open.
Wow, it's so different from the movie.
Yes, totally different. Yeah, it cracks his skull open, and it kills him. And people have always said that in the book it's much better because the thing is physically used to kill him. But it's not. If you go back a little bit, what actually happened was Rawhead, when I said earlier, he finds out how to make fire easily. And he starts burning everything to the ground. He's having so much fun burning shit. He's on fire. His skin is burning. His hair is burning. He's blind because of the fire. He has burned himself.
He's so dumb. He doesn't realize that.
He has burned himself alive, and he's almost completely blinded by the time he's fighting Andy. So when all these people are beating him, they're beating this thing that has been burnt to a crisp already. He almost killed himself, basically.
Yeah. So it's like they got a head start, I guess, in beating, like destroying him and burning him and doing all that. Interesting. Yeah. Very different from the movie.
Very different. And that's why I think that the movie actually works better, because Barker wrote the script, and I think the movie works better considering that the creature has a very phallic look to him. You know, and he's afraid of pregnant women and women on their periods. It's a very man versus woman thing, which is always like, Jesus, Barker, you're fucking gay. What do you know? What do you know about men and women? Like, I'm just being shitty about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm just being shitty about it.
You want to hear something funny about the ending? And so I love the movie, but I've always felt the ending felt kind of out of nowhere, not because of what it represents, but more so because the character of Elaine doesn't do much.
No.
She is just the wife.
Yeah.
The whole movie. Not saying anything bad about the actor portraying about her, but more so she adds nothing. You're following Howard the entire movie. So when she comes in and out, she's holding the kids. She's, in the pre-scenes with the cops. Mother. She doesn't really do much.
She's a mother.
It's just like convenient. I guess like it's almost like the answer was there the entire time, which is smart when you really think about it. But in telling a screenplay, the movie, not the short story, it just feels kind of out of nowhere. It's like, okay, she just shows up, Howard, and then she grabs. I agree with that. She grabs this stone, raises it above her head, and the fucking lady in white comes out of it, and she starts.
Pretty much.
That's basically, to go back to the last episode we covered, the last movie. The lady in white shows up and defeats Rawhead by shooting him with lasers and stuff. It's a cool visual. Everything about it looks cool. But it is random, and that's always been, and it's funny because in my notes I have my only really dislike about this movie is how rushed the ending feels and out of left field it feels, because Elaine does nothing in the movie.
No.
At one point, she's even a shitty mom. She has a line of dialogue when the daughter has to go pee, and she goes behind the bush. She's got to grow up sometime. This girl's like 4 years old. She's like 4. She's like a baby, like a toddler almost. So it's like, I wasn't even rooting for this woman the entire movie. Like, she's kind of a pain in the ass to Howard. She's kind of an asshole to her, like, little tiny cute, like, little daughter. Like, I felt so, like, in that scene where she literally tells the daughter, she has to grow up sometime. You feel bad for her. She's so innocent. And, like, and then Howard, who is very likable in the movie, and we haven't even gotten into the cast, but I think Howard's likable. He's like, she's little. Like, I'll take her. I'm going to go with her. And that's the reason why his son dies.
She's got to grow up sometime, and he says, not until I'm good and ready.
Yeah.
And you know what? My brother, who has 3 kids, he has that same mentality. While a lot of the time his wife will kind of be like, look, they're kids. They gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
And he's very much like, nope, that's my little girl. My brother has very much my little girl.
Exactly.
Yes.
And as when you watch a movie, obviously it's fiction, but you're still going to take references and stuff like that from real life.
Yes.
So it's like, as a character, I just felt like she was kind of underutilized. And then to have her be the reason that she defeats Rawhead Rex. Yeah. So that's always been kind of like the one major issue I had. Again, I've never read the story, so that doesn't happen in the book. Yeah, no, she plays no part in the ending in the book. Nope.
So, but that whole scene of her going, she's got to grow up sometime. That's in the book.
And the symbolism and the symbolism of, or the allegory, I guess, in the movie of Rawhead, representing masculinity and kind of overpowering and
which
being
is totally
horny,
true. It's
being
that
enraged, and then this, like, I guess, soft, because even when she has the stone, it's like this pretty situation, kind of counters what Rawhead represents. It's cool. It's cool. But again, just the execution. It's so odd.
I mean, the book is very, I do feel that because he wrote the script, I found a version of the script. I haven't read it yet because it's fucking $15. And I'm like, how much do I really want to read this script? But I did find $15 for a PDF of his, a PDF, not even like not even buying a published version.
A little binded version they'll send you or something.
Yeah, like if I were to buy it and I were to get like a bound printed version, $15 for a PDF of a 40-year-old script. Jesus.
Interesting.
So I have not read that yet, but I am under the assumption that because he wrote the script, a lot of those male versus female elements were still in the original script. So her being, and again, he wrote the ending, and I think he realized that ending fits better because it is the woman taking him down. I honestly, when I read the story, the townspeople beating him down I was like, okay, so what?
That's how Halloween Kills ends.
Yeah, I was like, who cares? So these town peoples who didn't know that he existed beforehand, or here he is, and suddenly they're just gonna beat him with bats. I was like, this is kind of cheap.
It's funny too, because the movie, like us talking about what she represents, Elaine, and then what Rawhead represents, and then the stone. And when you really think about it, the movie is sort of bookend by that. It's bookend by the family, her, and then her defeating him. Obviously Howard helps her. But the middle portion of the movie is him going on this rampage, and he literally kills women. Like it's
nobody
like
does.
Slasher movie. No, I know.
He actually, in the book, he relishes in being able to kill women and children.
I do want to point something out too. I always got a kick out of this. This is in my notes. I think it's fucking hysterical. There's that scene, right? Because we kind of brushed over it, but there's a scene in the movie, and we'll get back to what you're about to say. There's a scene in the movie where there's these people just hanging out, drinking. It's like 4 people in a trailer.
In the trailer park, yeah.
Yes, hanging out, drinking. Now, Rawhead just being there looks ridiculous. He fucking ridiculous. It's so fucking dumb looking, but I love it. He pushes over, and this goes back to him killing women. Pushes over the fucking trailer, right? And this is the fucking most, it's just hilarious, dude. So he's, one of the guys tries to climb out of the trailer. He sees Rawhead. Rawhead grabs him, kills him, whatever. There's this like attractive woman.
Very attractive.
She gets grabbed from Rawhead, and one of the dudes tries to help her.
Mary
pulls her dress. Boob action for no reason. It is fucking and I'm like, they just needed to get nudity in this movie, and that was it. It's so funny, dude. Unintentionally hilarious, because like her dress, like Rawhead's pulling her out. He's not trying to pull her dress off, but the guy grabs her dress, accidentally trying to grab her,
and then rips it off.
It's like some Dumb and Dumber shit, and like the dress gets ripped off, and she's just topless now.
They had to get some nudity. There is a scene similar to that in the story too, but I don't think it's a trailer park. But there is a scene similar to that where women's clothes get ripped off and stuff, where Rawhead relishes in being able to kill,
which would have made more sense. It felt like that would have been a scene where they could have played up Rawhead grabbing this woman, seeing her naked, and then maybe like peeing on her, laughing, like
jerking off. Suddenly he gets.
Well, they
hard.
wouldn't have done that,
dude. There are moments where Rawhead is hard killing women. When the priest, not the verger, not the Renfield, when the priest gets the vision of Rawhead's history, he's got a hard on. It gives him a hard on. Like, this is the thing. Like, the story. No, seriously, the story has a lot of that in it.
A lot of sexual undertones.
It's it's very heavily about male virility.
It's probably he was aroused while reading this or something.
Constantly.
Oh, wow. I've got to read this.
Yes.
It sounds fucking insane when compared to the movie.
There's quite a few times where they talk about someone experiencing Rawhead and having a hard-on. The priest has a hard-on.
Of that's in the movie, which is kind of crazy. They could have added a little bit of it. It would have
And I think that's what they were afraid of. That they were afraid of all that would be cut anyway, so they didn't want to waste, especially when he found out that the budget was cut almost in half. He's like, we can't waste time shooting shit that's going to get cut. We can't waste time and money doing it. But no, there is a lot about male virility and female fertility in the story, which is why I think that the ending in the movie makes a lot more sense. The problem is too much of those virility elements of the book, which were probably in the script, were cut out of it.
He got into the altar. I couldn't stop him, but you can kill him.
Considering its faults with the special effects of the creature of Rawhead and all kind of the problems it's had behind the scenes with budget and all the sex stuff being cut out, why do you love Rawhead Rex? And I'll tell you why I love it afterwards.
I've always enjoyed the monster movie aspect of it. I think Rawhead is funny. When I was a kid, I thought he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. When you see him straight on,
he does look like Arnold.
He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he does.
And I always thought that was funny, and I've said that to people over time, and they're like, "Oh my god, I've never noticed that." It's like, how did you not notice that? Especially those shots where the camera is dead on his face. Yeah. And his eyes are just, and he's got the open mouth. He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall, pulling the thing out of his nose.
You're right. You're right.
That's
fucking it up funny.
I always thought that's what he looked like, so I thought it was kind of funny. But it's just one of those movies I've always watched and I've always loved it. And it was also, being the age that I was, it was one of those films that I was technically too young to have been watching something so violent and, but I grew up in the good old US of A, where we don't care about violence. We only care about nudity. And there's only one scene with nudity. So it's not that bad. And it's like, there and gone.
And it's honestly pointless. So
it's totally
unnecessary. An unnecessary,
and it's over so quickly.
It's so hysterical, dude.
And
for me, that's kind of, so I can appreciate what they were trying to do. They play this movie straight.
Yes. Yeah. And absolutely.
Unfortunately, Rawhead as a character, there's nothing straight about him. There's nothing, you will not, you cannot play that character straight.
The scenes where he's running, there's a couple moments where he's running where the actor actually had to kind of lift it up a little bit to see, so you can see it, like the head is just hanging back and he's running at the screen, and it's like you can tell the actor's looking through the neck.
Yes. Dude, my favorite shot in the movie, and this is what I love. I said, playing it to cut it short. I love this movie because of how fucking ridiculous it is and how serious it takes itself. The source ridiculous. Material, from what I know and what I've read, because I've read a lot about the story and like what you talked about, and you gave us the breakdown of the actual short story. That I can see them taking that, trying to make a serious film and failing, but making this a very cult movie and I appreciate that. And him as a character is hysterical. He's running in and out of scenes. There is a shot, and going back to what you just said, where we get, I guess it's the animatronic Rawhead Rex head, running through this foggy wooded area, and there's just like branches smacking him in the face, and like he's pushing them out of the way. It's fucking hysterical.
And like you can tell he's on a dolly too, because it's so still.
You could tell it was just a chest up, like chest at the top of his head. That's it. And I remember, dude, I watched this for the first time when I was like 17 or something. I don't know. Wow. I might have rented it at Marquee Video, which has come up on the show before. I watched it so later in life, and I watched it and thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the world, and that's why I loved it.
It's quite possible you probably saw that I had
seen this with
I probably had it in my house, and you decided, fuck it, let me go watch this movie. Probably. It's quite possible, because I've had this DVD forever. Like, when is this? This DVD came out in 99.
We might have seen this together. Maybe you burned me a copy of it on DVD.
It's possible
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just saw it as a teenager. I did not see it as a kid.
99 Artisan brought it out.
Wow, Artisan had the
I mean, I remember I got this when it came out because I was like, oh my God. I bought it at FYE when Tiffany worked there.
Wow, yeah. So
I was so excited that Rawhead Rex had a DVD release.
It's a ridiculous movie, and that's kind of why I loved it. I saw it as a teenager, an immature teenager, and was like, this is fucking terrible. I love it. And that's it. You know, and like I said, the fact that everyone else is like David Duke, he's great in this. And he is trying his best.
Giving it his all. He really is.
To act the shit out of this movie, but it is ridiculous. There is the shot of the fucking Renfield priest getting pissed on and just shaking his head, loving it. It's in the book. It's hysterical, though.
It's in the book. In fact, in the book,
it probably reads better than it does in the
same. It's the same thing. The priest sees him and he's watching him get pissed. To add to it, as he's doing it, he holds his hands out and he cups the piss and then drinks it.
Oh God.
Do you see what I mean? Like, you watch now picture this. I'm sure that was in the script, but here's the thing. Picture this. You watch that in the film. Now you're going to watch somebody drink the piss, and it's like
the piss. Yeah.
It was already silly. How much silly, like a lot of this is so great in concept, but in execution, like, oh, come on.
Seeing it in live action
would be even more ridiculous.
But yeah, that's my favorite thing about the movie. It is ridiculous, and that's my favorite aspect of anything that has. Anytime I recommend Rawhead Rex to people, I'm like, I was recommending it to Chris, part of the Haunted Hangover squad. Chris had never even heard of this movie. He's like, I don't know what the hell Rawhead Rex is. I told him it's a Clive Barker short story, and I said, dude, watch this movie. It is going to make you laugh for 90 minutes. And it's a quick watch. It's only like an hour and 29 minutes. It's short.
Hell, if you find there's audiobooks on YouTube of it, and they're 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's short of it really is as quick of a movie as it is a story. You can read it in one sitting. Easily.
Easy watch.
I came here to tell you something. Now, I saw something. I don't know what it is, but it was there. And it's out there right now. So what do you want to do?
All right, Manny. So let's dive into the release, the Blu-ray release that we both watched. Okay. I already showed off my VHS, so I'll show it off again. And what year was this? Let's see. This is the Vestron Incorporated release from 1987. That's what my VHS is. That's one of the versions of the film I own.
Okay.
I just noticed we've got the little purple horror sticker there. It's
rental,
purple, not green. It's purple.
That's maybe Philly. They made it purple.
Yeah, in Philly, those Philly people, they make it purple over there.
You know. So I showed already. I have the DVD, which is 99, and this is Artisan. Kino Lorber did the Blu-ray release. And you have the Blu-ray as well, but I have the slipcase of it.
You have the cool version of it.
I mean, when they announced it, I ordered it immediately, because this is just one of those movies I have to have. So I did the pre-order and I waited a while. I'm waiting on what we're probably going to end up covering right now. And I fucking checked it yesterday. It still doesn't come out till the end of July. Needful Things 4K.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that?
I heard about it. It has different cuts of the movie on it.
It has the TV cut, which is 3 hours.
Yeah, I heard about it. I haven't pre-ordered it yet. So.
Have you ever seen the TV cut, the 3 hour cut?
No, just the version, the normal version.
I love it.
On DVD and VHS.
The 3 hour version is so good.
I've got to watch it.
Yeah, and I've been waiting for it. They finally released it. But anyway, also Kino Lorber doing that.
jumping into that in the future.
Yeah. I figured. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kino Lorber did this. I said I got the slip case, and that comes with this, and the inside cover is Rawhead jumping. Is what you have is Rawhead jumping out of the dirt.
Yeah.
It also comes with a book, which is more about the movie itself. You don't have the book.
I don't have the book for some reason. Your version's better than mine.
You got the bare bone. You got the regular release, which fine. But the book has a couple of illustrations, but it's illustrations of the movie, and there's the new Kino Lorber art. It's concept art by Paul Catling, poster art and design by Sean Phillips. I feel like I know that name, Sean Phillips. I don't know what he's done, but anyway, so it's a small little 3-page thing on the movie, and then sometimes Kino Lorber's Blu-rays drive me insane.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just like the company logo and then the most plain text you can use.
It is. Remember, Columbia Records did the same thing.
Yeah, I know.
Columbia, their CDs had the same thing. Like President's United States and Alice in Chains had the same plain.
It was just plain,
Yeah. And then I also have the Steelbook, which is the same version, but it's the Steelbook. They had it on a clearance at one point.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's the
original. Is that the original art of what he was supposed to look like?
No,
in the inside.
No.
That's him in the movie, right?
Yeah, this is him in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see it now.
It's the same book, same art, same book that's in the other one. It's the same exact thing, but it was on clearance for like $10, and I'm like, it's a Steelbook. Fuck it, I'll get it. Because I love the movie. So it's the same exact disc twice.
It's the same disc twice.
Same thing.
Speaking of covers, I've always loved this cover that's on the DVD. I prefer it over what they chose, even in the reversible slip cover. But I like this one with him in that
I do too.
doorway, and then his eyes on top, and then the Rawhead Rex logo
I've
at the bottom.
I've always wanted to get a scary stories to tell in the dark tattoo. Mm-hmm. But my shoulder, I wanted to be that Rawhead Rex head, there. But what I wanted to add was like a tearing of the skin across the eyes and have the Creepshow creatures crate eyes and ripped across that. Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. I just figured that's gonna be fucking expensive. But that thing with the crate creature's eyes,
it's a cool cover, and I just wish this version had the reversible of that.
Yeah, mine does, but
mine doesn't. So
yeah,
at least I held on to my VHS copy, so I've got it there. So that's good. So
I'm sure yours has the same special features because it's the same disc. I'm sure audio commentary with Pavlo, interview with Heinrich von Bunyau, actor Ronan Wilmart, interview with the effects artist, the cameraman. The co-creator of John Constantine, Stephen R. Bissett.
Yes, they're all good special features. It's a lot of talking head interviews. That's basically what it is. It's people sitting there talking about it. They go pretty in depth, like with the crew, the casting crew one is probably my favorite one because that's where I learned about how terrible it was shooting the movie, how cold it was, how excruciating the whole experience was for them. So they go in depth, dude. Yeah,
you can see it. The movie's raining in every fucking scene.
Yeah, I wish the only actor they talked to is the gentleman that played Rawhead, but a lot of the actors have passed away, so it's kind of hard. I think they interview the guy that played I keep calling him the Renfield priest, but
the Verger. Yeah.
The Verger. That's the word. You've said it several times. Yeah. But that character, they interview him, which is pretty cool.
I do have to correct earlier. We said earlier his name is David Duke, and I said not the racist David Dukes. No, it's the opposite. He is David Dukes. The KKK guy is David Duke.
Gotcha. Okay, there you go.
I want to make that clear because he does not deserve that.
Yes, he does not deserve that.
He does not deserve that. David Dukes is the normal actor guy that we can all love.
I watched all these interviews. They're really well done. You've got at least, I say, 2 hours worth of interviews here. Each one about 20 minutes. And they really go in depth. And then you learn about the guy that portrayed Rawhead. He was like 19 when he played the character. He was a kid.
Super young.
Crazy. And just everything. And then the one guy that the artist, the co-creator of John Conn's The Constantine, he goes in about the design of the original design of Rawhead and how
I'm going to guess those might be his drawings.
Yeah, probably. I think
those are probably his drawings in the book. I'm going to look at it.
You know, for a Blu-ray special edition, in reality, what more could they have added? You know, there's probably not a lot of deleted scenes in this movie.
For a movie that everybody really, really disowned and didn't want, like, how much could there really be? You're absolutely right.
It's a good release. I'm happy with it. I don't have a lot of, Kino Lorber. Like, I have a couple of their Blu-rays, but I don't have a lot. I'd say they're probably a little lower. They're below, like, Arrow and Scream Factory and kind of Code Red. They're like a Code Red. They're like a,
Well, they re-released a lot of Code Red stuff.
Yeah. So
I do have a bunch of Kino Lorber, but they do a lot more classics.
Yeah. They got the rights to Rawhead Rex for some reason.
Yeah, weird.
Strange.
They do a lot more movies from the 60s and 70s, like Baby Blood and The Asphyx and I got a bunch of theirs. A friend of mine, Heather Buckley, has done most of the special features for a lot of their films. I think they did the Ninth Configuration as well. She did those.
Gotcha.
So that's probably why I'm more aware of Kino Lorber stuff, because she's worked on so many of their films.
Yeah, you don't really hear about them that often, their releases.
No.
Every now and then you'll hear, like especially like physical media people, you never really hear, you don't ever hear their name. You always hear Arrow, Scream for the usual suspects. You know what I mean?
Big ones, yeah. I think Kino just doesn't put that much into it. Doesn't put as much into the advertising.
It's also Rawhead Rex, going back to everyone forgetting about this movie. So
but I mean, hey, that's I think they do some good stuff too. They really do some good releases.
For sure,
I do like their stuff, and like I said, they do re-release a lot of the Code Red stuff, and some of the Code Red and Scorpion stuff that they don't re-release comes out through what is that? Dark Side releasing.
Yeah. To close out, after the whole, we've talked about the movie for a while. We've talked about the Blu-ray release, and I dare say this, and I'm curious if you, because I haven't even told you this, but I'm curious if you'd agree with me. Do you think Rawhead Rex is primed for a remake? I think
yes.
I think out of all the movies that they fucking remake and reboot and make sequels to, like they remade that Hellraiser. They didn't remake it, but they made that Hellraiser movie for Hulu. The Hulu. I enjoyed it as well. But like, okay, cool. Another movie, another Hellraiser movie, another Pinhead movie. But they're always looking for IPs and properties. I feel like Rawhead Rex is prime. If it's marketed properly.
Even Barker has said he's willing to do a new updated Rawhead Rex. Yes. He's willing to do it, especially because of special effects technology now. And
he'll be all CGI more than likely, in all honesty.
Which I don't think he should be.
Yeah.
I think it should be a mix.
I agree.
I think it should be a mix. I think that's when things get really good. But he is open to a remake because, number one, of technology, special effects technology, CG, and number two, because audiences are so much more accepting now.
Yes.
That story, especially now, which, if you look at it then, again, but you look at it back then, the story was about, like I said, male virility versus female fertility, and it was that today it would be, you would just call that toxic masculinity.
It would work better in 2023. It would
I think it worked then at the time, but a lot of it was taken out of the movie.
That also went over people's heads, I'm sure.
Possibly.
When they watched it.
All
they saw was this big monster ripping people apart. That's what they saw.
I do think that the women's lib movement was pretty big in the late 70s, early 80s. So I think it totally could have worked then. I mean, that's when he wrote it.
Yeah.
So I do think that it 100% would have worked then if they had just left it all in there. But today, 100%. Texas Chainsaw, Slumber Party Massacre, the movies where they're taking it and they're really diving headfirst into the feminism of it. and they're working.
This is a movie that
This could
would 100% work.
Yes,
So that's why I'm
100% work
shocked that they haven't remade it. Of all the stuff that they remake and they make sequels to, it's like so strange that
I think it's Barker. I think he has decided he's not doing it unless someone is willing to do it exactly as he's willing to do it.
You can totally get like a decent kind of actor to play Howard and to, a decent actress to play Elaine and just, good special effects.
Yep.
You don't, shoot it in, where did they shoot the new Texas Chainsaw that came out? It wasn't even here. It wasn't even in Texas. It was in like
New Zealand, I think.
Something crazy like
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Because it's cheaper to make
Well, they
movies.
shot it during COVID, so they shot that during COVID, so New Zealand was the first to
But you know what I mean? Like they'll go out there.
Yes.
And in this case, it works perfectly because it's a countryside town that this is, taking place in. So it's like you make this movie, you could remake it. Rawhead is in a lot of the movie, but I feel like they'd probably, he'd be less visible throughout, remake. They'd show him here and there. But I think this is ripe for a remake. It's in
Samara Weaving and Tom Hiddleston.
There you go.
Put the two of them. I could totally, because they are both fucking phenomenal actors.
And Elaine,
Hiddleston
write her a little better. You know what I mean? Write that character a little better.
Yeah, I could see it. Samara Weaving and Tom Hiddleston. I could totally see that because again, he's British.
Together. Yeah,
yeah. I think that she's Australian.
Yeah, she's Australian.
But he's British, right?
Yes,
or is he Irish?
I think he's British. He's from the UK.
British,
England,
the story takes place in Ireland. It takes place in like a Summer Isle style Ireland, which is what he didn't like either, because the film is very much a summer, bright summer during the like before the harvest, everything's still growing. Summer, and it turned into a rainy moors Ireland.
Yeah, listen, man, that casting is spot on. I agree with that. That'd be a good. I wonder who would play the other characters. You have to think of like some other character actors to play them, like the priest.
The priest, fucking throw Idris Elba in there, fucking kill it. He will kill it as
just
the lead,
change it completely as like a different
priest, not the virgin.
Yeah, the good guy,
the good
not
priest.
Yeah.
Idris Elba would fucking kill it.
That'd be kind of funny.
Great.
Yeah. Listen, man, they got to do this. They got to do this. Listen, man, he made that lion movie where you had to kill the lion that was killing everybody. I think he'd do a Rawhead Rex
I haven't watched
remake.
that yet, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
The Beast,
the Beast, right?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, dude. I just feel that's kind of my closing thoughts, and I'll let you wrap it up.
Oh, and throw
for
David
us.
Howard Thornton as Rawhead.
There you
That's
go.
it.
That's what I say. This is one of the movies that is enjoyable. It's silly. It's a good time. It's a popcorn movie. I think this is one of the movies where you tell someone, have you ever watched Rawhead Rex? We need something
100%.
to watch. You want to laugh, have a drink, and talk shit? Let's throw on Rawhead Rex.
Yep.
Like, you kind of you get what's happening. It's not that kind of, I feel like if they remade it.
It's not
if
very
they
deep.
remade it, they'd make it deeper. But
Yes.
the original film is not that deep. And I think when it comes to films that could be rebooted and kind of reimagined,
Totally.
Rawhead Rex is on the list. To me, top of the list probably of something.
I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
All for a remake of Rawhead.
It's got to happen, and
I'd be all for it.
For all its faults, I still love it. I still fucking love it as a movie.
Dude, I love the movie.
Yeah.
I know what's wrong with it. I don't give a fuck. I fucking love this movie. I absolutely love Rawhead Rex. I put it on earlier today just to watch, and even Lynn watched. I said to her, I was like, I got to watch it again just so that it's, because I haven't had a chance to watch it again. I could have totally done this show without watching it because I've seen it so often, but I'm like, no, I need to be totally refreshed. I need it fresh in my mind. I watched it and I was like, so I gotta watch Rawhead Rex. I'm pretty sure this is not a movie you're gonna mind much. She's like, nope, she can watch it whenever too, because it's just so
it's a good time, man. It's a good time. It's a good time. Rawhead Rex is a
fun
good
monster
time.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a really fun monster movie. I really love it.
If this is his territory, it'll come back, sooner or later. All we have to do is wait.
Wait? Wait for what? More your mistakes? More slaughter?
Look, Mr. Hallenbeck, we understand how you feel.
You have no idea how I feel.
Your goddamn stupidity is the reason my son is dead.
So that was Rawhead Rex. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @Haunted Hangover. Also, head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to our Patreon, the video version of this episode, the audio-only version of this episode, and links to all Haunted Hangover-related materials and things.
And be sure to, wherever on all of those areas that you are possibly listening or looking at us from, rate and review us because you love us.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later.